Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome into Tiger Talks Wrestling once again. We had so much success with our retrospective shows for WrestleMania, we thought we'd bring it back for another one of the major premium live events or pay-per-views in WWE history. That, of course, being the King of the Ring. So I got myself here along with the final boss, Eddie. Welcome into the show, my friend.
Hey, well, it's great to be here. And yes, the King of the Ring tournament. Man, memories. This was the first pay-per-view to be added to the WWE, or back then, the World Wrestling Federation roster. Other than that, it was specials like this Tuesday in Texas, which was okay, but WWE knew WCW was coming, so they added the King of the Ring tournament. So this is going to be fun.
Yeah, this should be. That, of course, stuff started in 1993, but the King of the Ring tournament goes back a little bit further than 1993. We'll show you here. I'm going to talk about the first ever King of the Ring tournaments. And I'm going to show off the brackets and everything that happened in said King of the Ring tournaments. As there to see, I know it's probably not the greatest. Make it a little bit bigger. Might help a little bit. The very first King of the Ring happened in 1985. We'll go up and show you the date. July 8th, 1985 in Foxborough, Massachusetts, actually. 23,000 people witnessed the very first King of the Ring tournament. As the show would start with who would become Jumping Jim Brunzell, however you want to pronounce it, defeating the Spoiler in the very first round, first match. And the Spoiler, I think I did see somewhere, it kind of was in there for somebody else. El Matador, Chico Santana, as Jesse the Body would call him once upon a time. Tito Santana would wrestle in the second match and defeat the legendary Hall of Famer Terry Funk by disqualification. Quite interesting to see that. The Iron Sheik defeated B. Brian Blair. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat defeated Greg the Hammer Valentine. Les Thornton defeated Steve Lombardi. Les Thornton I'm not familiar with, but Steve Lombardi, of course, would later become the Brooklyn Brawler.
And A. Knuckleball Swartz.
Yes, as well.
Oh, and I'm sorry, one more person too. Doink the Clown.
He was Doink at one point, yes. We also had Don the Rock Morocco defeat Junkyard Dog.
Wow.
Pedro Morales defeated Johnny V. And in the final first round match, you got Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful, and Cowboy Bob Orton Jr. coming off of the very first WrestleMania, fighting each other to a double disqualification.
Did I
double
say
disqualification?
So Pedro Morales defeated Luscious Johnny Valiant. Wow.
It just says Johnny V. I assume it's Johnny Valiant then.
Yeah, Luscious Johnny
V.
Yep. But yeah, that was his moniker, Luscious Johnny Valiant.
Nice. That was a lot of first round action. The longest match in that first round was actually almost 20 minutes, 1 second less than that, between Ricky the Dragon and Greg the Hammer. And the shortest match would be 1 minute and 6 seconds as Pedro Morales beat Johnny V, in 1 minute.
He got the bushwhacker. He got the bushwhacker minute.
Yeah, he did. That he did. All right. The second round, then they'd go into have jumping Jim Brunzell defeated Tito Santana. That's very surprising in the quarterfinals. Iron Sheik would defeat Ricky the Dragon. Don Morocco would defeat Les Thornton. And of course, Paige Morales would get the bye off of the Paul Orndorff Bob Orton Jr. double disqualification. So you got some, what you would think now would have been upsets. I don't know that they would consider it that at that point in time, but nowadays, when you see some of these names, you'd think that the other person would have went over instead of the guy that did.
Yeah, I do agree with that. The one that really puzzles me is like, how the hell did a Killer Bee beat Chico Santana?
I know, right?
Like, are you nuts? A former, I think he's a former 2-time Intercontinental Champion and a tag team champion with Rick Martel, and you make him lose. You make him lose to a Killer Bee? What the hell?
Yeah. Right? It is nuts, that's for sure. All right, and then in the semifinals, you got the Iron Sheik, Sheiky Baby, defeating Jim Brunzell finally, and Don the Rock Morocco would defeat Pedro Morales. Okay, so this says Jim Brunzell defeated Tito. That says it went to a draw for some odd reason, but yet still had Jim Brunzell.
What?
Oh, Brunzell won a coin toss to determine who would continue in the tournament, apparently, after the 20-minute time limit draw. So Tito Santana didn't get beat. The time limit just expired, and Brunzell won a coin toss to advance.
Oh my God. That is the worst way to lose the match for the King of the Ring. Oh my God.
Wow. Poor Tito Santana.
He didn't even get a fair shake. I choose head. You win. God damn it, I gotta go back.
Right. I mean, and then the prize is you face the Iron Sheik. So, I mean.
Yeah, but to me, I think that would have been a better match between Tito and Iron Sheik.
Yeah, I agree. It would have been.
Well, we can't say it's racial profiling. So it wasn't.
Right?
Oh my God.
Then, of course, we go from that to the finals. You got Don Morocco beating the Iron Sheik to become the first King of the Ring. As,
go back up
Don
here.
Morocco would actually go back.
You see the you see what it says, the tournament bracket, it says edit.
Yeah.
Can we edit and say Tito should have won?
You're not logged in. Your IP address.
Damn it!
Mostly visible if you make any edits. Just start editing.
Oh my God.
And it doesn't really let you. It don't look like that well.
And then leave a comment on the bottom. You were wrong. We're right. That is insane. That is insane. A coin toss finish for a semifinals match.
Now, the thing that baffles me the most is you had the double disqualification between Paul Orndorff and Bob Orton Jr., and that automatically gave a bye to Pedro Morales. So why is it any different with this time limit draw?
And I can tell you one reason. Vince McMahon. Oh, they're in the first WrestleMania. Let's not screw that up.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I mean, his eyes. And Pedro Morales is a former World Wrestling Federation champion. Hello.
True. Very true. But out of all that, our confusion and everything else, the first ever King of the Ring back in 1985 was Don Morocco, coming off the heels of WrestleMania, the very first WrestleMania.
And he would have been married, and he would have been managed by Mr. Fuji.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm sure the Sheik had his own. Who was the manager of the Iron Sheik at that point?
I think the Iron Sheik's manager at the time was Classy Freddie Blassie.
I was gonna say, I thought it was Classy Freddie Blassie, but I wasn't positive.
It was
because the Sheik was in a tag team match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, with Nikolai. At the time, he would have been the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champion.
It's true. Speaking of Nikolai Volkov, he was in the main event at that show, getting beat by Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, because at WrestleMania, him and Nikolai beat the Can-Man Connection.
The U.S. Express.
U.S. Express. Why am I saying that in the name for? I'm thinking of Tom.
I don't know.
The Z-Man and Martel.
Yeah, but it wasn't them. It was against Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda.
Yeah, so wow. Well, congratulations to both men that are not. No, Iron Sheik's the only one that's passed on.
Yeah. So Don Morocco, the very first King of the Ring.
Yeah.
1986 is makes more sense, but if it all does. So we'll move on to 1986. They have the King of the Ring from, again, Foxborough, Massachusetts. Less people, 12,000 in Sullivan Stadium on July 14th of 86. That would start with Don Morocco, the defending King of the Ring, going up with Mr. Fuji in his corner, going up against Roddy Piper in a match that would end in a 20-minute time limit draw. So you go from winning the crown to getting eliminated in the first round because of a draw.
And Piper would have been a heel.
Yeah. And we also got in the first round, Harley Race would defeat Georgie Animal Steel by disqualification. Billy Jack Haynes. That's a name you don't hear too often. But...
Well, maybe not now you don't.
No, back then you would, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He would defeat the Iron Sheik, who made it to the finals the year before, but gets eliminated in the first round, just like the winner of the year before's tournament did. Nikolai Volkov would defeat Dan Spivey. Junkyard Dog defeated Mr. Wonderful by disqualification. Pedro Morales defeated some no-name guy named Rudy Diamond. We'll get into that a little bit more here in a minute. And that's the end of the first round. Rudy Diamond was a substitute for Cowboy Bob Orton Jr. in this first round match. You were a little bit older than me at this point in time because I was just a baby at that time. Rudy Diamond, is that a name that rings any bells to you?
Well, I saw him on maybe Superstars or Championship Wrestling. Not WCW, but he was a jobber. He wasn't like a major name.
Huh. Surprising that he was even in the tournament then, but he did get beat in 3 minutes and 6 seconds by Pedro. But
back in the day, WWE used to do 2 house shows a day, so they used to split the roster.
Right.
So who was ever there, that's how they did it.
Yeah. So off of that, 2 guys did get buys in the first round, that being, for some reason, Mike Rotunda and Mr. X. I don't think it really explained anywhere as why those 2 got first round buys.
It was a coin toss.
Perhaps. But anyways, we then go into the quarterfinals of the King of the Ring tournament. where we'd see Billy Jack Haynes defeated Mr. X in 59 seconds. So Mr. X gets a bye in the first round and gets beaten in less than a minute by Billy Jack Haynes. Nikolai Volkov would defeat the Junkyard Dog, and Pedro Morales defeated Mike Rotunda. Of course, Harley Race would get the bye into the semifinals after the draw between Don Morocco and Roddy Piper. Submissions in there. Huh. No real big upsets in that quarterfinals, I wouldn't say. The semifinals would then see Harley Race defeat Billy Jack Haynes by countout, and Pedro Morales would defeat Nikolai Volkov. And leading into Bruno Sammartino at the show would defeat the Designated Hitman in a singles match outside the tournament. Before the finals of the King of the Ring would be Harley Race defeating Pedro Morales in 10 minutes and 58 seconds to become King Harley Race.
I actually like that because
Mr. X wasn't Hercules Hernandez.
I have no idea. I have no idea who Mr. X was because he was under a mask.
Right. He was a substitute for Hercules Hernandez, evidently, because that's what it says there anyway.
That was before the Hercules. You remember when he was just coming out with the chain?
Yeah.
The Hercules Hernandez from here came out with a whole Trojan horse and carriage and the whole body armor, like from the Trojan era. That's how he used to come out to the ring.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, if they don't have it on some, but at Summer Live events, he used to come out to the ring with who's his manager? I think it was Bobby Heenan, and then it went to it was Bobby Heenan made him come out to. That's why they did it. That they made him come out to on a Trojan horse and carriage.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Might have to look that up sometime.
Yeah. And then I think the WWE got in trouble because they thought
before we move on to 1990.
They thought it was animal cruelty that they had like that, but who knows if I do remember some of it, but I don't think they like putting stuff like that. But yeah, he was hell. Vince McMahon wanted Bret Hart to be dressed as a cowboy and come out on a horse.
Of course he did.
Yeah. Oh, this is nothing new. A man stabbed multiple times on the street in Queens. Yeah, okay. Hopefully he's okay.
John did message that he's home
I saw it.
Shortly.
I was watching Collision this week.
I wanted to share this once it gets.
I was watching Collision. Did you see the Dynamite Kid's nephew was wrestling on Dynamite on Collision this weekend?
I haven't watched Collision.
Yeah, I was watching it. Man, he has his uncle's moniker, which is insane.
Yeah, I've seen that. That, of course, the picture there I shared. Of course, that picture there that I'm sharing is King Harley Race wearing his crown and his cape after winning the King of the Ring tournament. Something very symbolic with Harley Race throughout his entire career, I feel like, after he won that. Something that many people knew or seen. Pay no attention to who posted that, but I'm just grabbing a picture that popped up on Google.
Yeah, we don't
same
know that.
cape and crown would be worn by some. Yeah, really. King of the Ring, but we'll get into that later. That 1986 King of the Ring, the main event match would be the British Bulldogs and the cage match to gain the World Tag Team titles
Against the Dream Team.
Yep. Move in to 1987. Harley Race at one point would lose that crown. I saw Jim Duggan, who didn't actually win a King of the Ring tournament that I seen on here, but that's something that would happen. 1987. King of the Ring would take place in Providence, Rhode Island, in the Providence Civic Center. 12,000 people would be there September 4th, 1987. That's just 16 days before my sister was born, actually.
Wow.
We would kick off the King of the Ring.
Yeah. I think the reason why they did the storyline that Hacksaw Jim Duggan won it is because Harley Race had to go for surgery because of that mishap with the Immortal Douchebag on Saturday Night Main Event, that he had to go for soldier surgery.
Probably.
So to all your Hulkamaniac fans, and I used to be one, Hulk Hogan can kiss my ass.
I don't blame you. Don't like some of the things he's done. All right. So back to King of the Ring 1987. Nice little nugget about Hacksaw. We kick off the tournament with Haku, who we all know, of course, has two sons now in the WWE, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. He would defeat Brutus the Barber Beefcake in the very first match of this tournament. Model Rick Martel defeated Dan Spivey. There's a name you don't hear very often these days.
Mm-hmm.
King Kong Bundy would defeat the one-man gang by countout. SD Jones would defeat Sika from the Loud Samoans. Dangerous Danny Davis, a former referee at one point in time, would, of course, defeat Tito Santana by countout. The Junkyard Dog would defeat Tama. I assume it's also some Samoans. They just changed the name for whatever reason. Jumping Jim Brunel would defeat Outlaw Ron Bass. And the Macho Man, Randy Savage, with Miss Elizabeth in his corner, would defeat Nikolai Volkov to round out the first round of the King of the Ring tournament. I would say there's only one kind of shocker, really, in that first round, that being Jim Brunzell defeating Ron Bass, because I don't know about you, but me, I always thought of Ron Bass as a bigger name in WWF back in those days, more so than, as you mentioned earlier, one of the Killer Bees.
You know what? I do agree with you. The Outlaw Ron Bass, one of the toughest, rugged guys in the nice guy, met him. I met him, he was a nice guy, but man, that guy could go with the best. But him losing to a Killer Bee, Vince McMahon must have really liked honey.
Something.
You know.
But
if people don't know, and like I might want to say this, if people do not know who Dan Spivey is, he was better known as Waylon Mercy.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good
Bray Wyatt. Indeed.
And then he teamed up in WCW with one Hall of Famer as what was the name of the damn group? The name of the group. One, he teamed up with former World Wrestling Federation champion Psycho Sid. And then when Sid got hurt, he teamed up with Mean Mark Calloway, better known as the
Undertaker. Yes, indeed. Interesting little side notes. The other, I guess, upset you'd say in that first round would have been Dangerous Danny Davis beating Chico Santana. He got no respect.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. And you know, Jimmy Hart had something to do with that.
Oh, I'm sure. Then we go from the first round into the second round of the tournament. The quarterfinals would see Haku defeat. Well, it says defeated, but then it says they wrestled to a draw. They did wrestle to a draw. Haku and the model Rick Martel wrestled. Well, he might not have been the model quite yet then, but still. Wrestled to a 15-minute draw, time limit draw, anyways. Haku and Rick Martel. King Kong Bundy would defeat SD Jones. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that a rematch from WrestleMania?
It was. It was.
Except for if I remember right, at WrestleMania they had the midgets involved too, but
no, that was with Hillbilly Jim.
Oh no, yeah, you're right, that was. But I think he squashed SD Jones at WrestleMania, and this one took a 4-minute match. So
he gave him a little effort.
But, yeah. Dangerous Danny Davis would defeat the Junkyard Dog by countout. There's another upset for Davis. And Randy Savage would defeat Jumpin' Jim Brunzell with Miss Elizabeth in his corner. Then you get the semifinals. King Kong Bundy would automatically get a bye to the finals since Haku and Rick Martel wrestled to a time limit draw. And you got Dangerous Danny Davis against Randy Savage in the semifinals, which Randy, of course, win.
That was 9 minutes.
Quite the interesting turn of events. Yes, Randy Savage and Danny Davis went 9 minutes and 6 seconds.
Hold on a minute. Did Randy wrestle right after his first match?
Well, that was his second and third match, one right after the other. Is what it shows.
That is insane. But he could do it.
22 minutes Randy was in the ring then, at least.
Wow.
Between those two matches. Yep. And then Jake the Snake would defeat the Intercontinental Champion, the Honky Tonk Man, with Jimmy Hart by DQ before the finals would take place. And after 13 minutes and 4 seconds, Randy Savage would become who we'd later learn to call him the Macho King, Randy Savage, when he would defeat King Kong Bundy in the finals.
And this would have been around WrestleMania, right after WrestleMania 3.
Yeah, in between 3 and 4, since it was in September.
Yeah. So he was just turning as a face.
So actually, we would later call him Macho King Randy Savage, but this wouldn't have been where he'd become Macho King because Macho King wouldn't happen until after WrestleMania 5.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So Macho Man did actually win the King of the Ring tournament in 87, but later would go on to win the crown, if you will, to crown himself Macho King a couple years later.
Okay, here's what I'm saying. He won it here, and then on Storyline on TV, he beat Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Do you consider Randy Macho Man Savage as a 2-time King of the Ring winner?
I personally don't feel like he can because he didn't win a tournament to win the crown the second time, technically. But that could be up for a debate.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. First one, hands down. He was the Macho King. Ooh, yeah. You know, but here, yeah, it's a debate that a lot of people might have.
Right. So we move on to the next year, a little over a year later. October 16th, 1988, we'd get King of the Ring again from Providence, Rhode Island. Providence Civic Center had the least amount of fans at a King of the Ring event so far. 6,700 people would witness the fourth King of the Ring tournament as you got Ken Patera defeated Nikolai Volkov in the very first match of the tournament. Two names that were quite heavily heard, I guess you could say, back in those days. Ken Patera and Nikolai Volkov. Ted DiBiase would defeat the Brutus the Barber Beefcake, the $1 Million Man, going over. Outlaw Ron Bass defeated the Barbarian by disqualification. Shawn Michaels defeated Dangerous Danny Davis. This being 1988, Shawn Michaels would have been still in the Rockers at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Bad News Brown would wrestle Hercules to a double count out. And the defending King of the Ring champion Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth would defeat Virgil. Red Rooster, of all people, would defeat the other half of the Rockers, Marty Jannetty. And Mike Sharp would defeat Boris Zukov in the final first round match of the King of the Ring tournament.
First of all, my favorite, I know he was a jabber, but we got to give some love to Iron Mike Sharp. I mean, that guy was funny. Every time he hit somebody, he goes, ah, ah, you know. But yeah, that was
and he just looked him. Iron Mike Sharp just lucked himself into this tournament because he was a replacement for an injured Barbarian, or Warlord, in this match.
Wait a minute. You see the bottom of that shit? Number 2.
Yes, I'll get into it. Don't worry. Hold on. Don't read it.
I got you.
Get into it.
No, I got you.
So then, after, I know, right? After the first round matches were over, Hacksaw Jim Duggan would defeat Dino Bravo with Frenchie Martin in a flag match. I had read in the info earlier that Frenchie Martin accidentally hit Dino Bravo with the flag, and that led to Hacksaw winning the match, getting the flag down. But that happens. So then we go into the quarterfinals. You get Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, defeating Ken Patera. Outlaw Ron Bass defeating Heartbreak Kid, later known as Shawn Michaels. And then the Red Rooster would defeat Iron Mike Sharp. Macho Man would get a bye, of course, to the semifinals because of the Bad News Brown Hercules double countout. That brings us to the semifinals and what you were reading there. It was supposed to be DiBiase versus. However, as you can see there on the screen, maybe kind of sort of read it there. Eddie, what happened to that match?
Well, it shows right here that Ted DiBiase paid off Outlaw Ron Bass to fake an injury. Oh my God. Everybody has a prize for the $1 Million Man.
Yes, indeed. I mean, this is the same guy who paid off Andre the Giant to hand over the WWF Championship to him at one point in time. So,
and this would have been
of course,
around.
that didn't work out too well for him, but.
And this would have been around after WrestleMania 4. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It would have.
And just after SummerSlam in 1988. The very first SummerSlam. Therefore, the only semifinal match we technically got saw Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth defeating the Red Rooster. How the hell the Red Rooster made it that far? I guess he beat Marty Jannetty and Iron Mike Sharp. So
technically, I think the Red Rooster was still managed by Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Yeah, they don't mention that for some reason. They just say Randy was managed by Elizabeth at that point in time.
Yeah, Bobby never.
But they went right.
Yeah, but yeah, I got it.
It's weird. But we go from that. Wow, really? Right into the finals. Randy Savage has back-to-back matches again. As this time he gets beat by Ted DiBiase in the finals of the King of the Ring tournament via a count out. So Ted DiBiase wins the King of the Ring tournament by first paying off Outlaw Ron Bass, and then gets a count out victory over Randy Savage in the finals.
If you add up DiBiase's matches and Randy Savage's matches, they were really short matches, maybe by a couple of minutes.
Yeah, you're not wrong. No, really, they were the same amount of time, pretty much, because this match between Randy and Red Rooster went 7:21. The first match for DiBiase went 7 minutes and 32 seconds, so a few seconds longer.
Yeah.
The second match for DiBiase was 5:42. The first match for Savage was 5:43. And they both got buys at different points, technically.
I'm gonna fake an injury.
Yeah, they pretty much had the same amount of ring time.
I'm gonna fake an injury so you could win and beat Randy Savage by count out, which is makes no sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. But it is what it is.
And you know what's so funny? The last two King of the Ring tournaments, they had matches.
All right, we'll move on. 1980.
You know what's so funny? They had two matches. Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant wasn't on the card.
That's true. They must have been on the other house shows. All right, we'll move into 1989, October 14th. Providence, Rhode Island, yet again, saw the King of the Ring, 4,500 people there. We kick off the tournament with Akeem, the African Dream, defeating Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Hercules and Jim the Anvil Neidhart would end in a double disqualification. The Warlord would defeat Bushwhacker Butch. Tito Santana would defeat Bad News Brown. Rick Martel would defeat Bill Woods. Bushwhacker Luke would defeat Nikolai Volkov. Jimmy Superfly Snuka defeated the Barbarian, and in the final first round match, Haku would defeat the Red Rooster. We let all that sink in. The biggest upset there, of course, in the first round would be Bushwhacker Luke getting the victory over Nikolai Volkov.
Yeah, that one's a little
A little shocking, yes. 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Alrighty. Apparently, this Bill Woods was a substitute for Hillbilly Jim in the first round, and Nikolai Volkov was a substitute for Barry Windham in the match against Luke of the Bushwhackers. Not only did Luke manage to get the upset, but he didn't even know who his opponent was going to be until just before the match started, probably. That's what it sounded like.
And because Nikolai Volkov substituted for Barry Windham, well, yeah, they had to. Barry Windham was in WCW.
Yeah, I guess so. That's when Barry left. All right. We'll move on to the quarterfinals. You got 3 matches again because of the one double disqualification. Tito Santana would defeat the Warlord. The model Rick Martel would defeat Bushwhacker Luke. And Jimmy Superfly Snuka would defeat Haku. And then they'd go right into the semifinals with Tito Santana defeating Akeem. There's a shocker. And Rick Martel would defeat Jimmy Superfly Snuka, as we would get. I guess this kind of made sense because they got Strike Force, the former Strike Force teammates going against each other in the finals of that year's King of the Ring tournament.
That's right, because that was at the WrestleMania.
I do believe they had broken up at that point in time, anyway.
Yeah, that was at the WrestleMania 5. Yeah.
They'd go right in from Rick Martel defeating Jimmy Snuka to Rick Martel losing in the finals to Tito Santana, who would become King of the Ring, the 5th King of the Ring.
Technically, right after that, Randy Savage would have been the King of the Ring.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been too long after that, would it?
Yeah, because he would have defeated on Saturday night's main event Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Right. So the longest match, I know I haven't said it for all these, the longest match in this King of the Ring was actually the finals. The shortest, of course, was a 55-second match that Rick Martel would defeat Bill Woods in the first round. Bill Woods is definitely not a name I remember, so he must have been a jobber as well.
Yep. That's how my age is. That's how old I am. I remember him as a jobber. Yay, I'm old.
Then they skipped a year. They didn't do one in 1990, but in 1991, we would get the return of the King of the Ring tournament. September 7th, 91, in Providence Civic Center yet again. 2,400 people. I think the lowest attended King of the Ring at that point then. Would see first the Nasty Boy, Jerry Saggs, with Jimmy Hart in his corner, defeat Road Warrior Hawk by disqualification to start that King of the Ring, the 91 King of the Ring. Now, if I remember correctly, 1991, around that time, was when the Nasty Boys and the Road Warriors, or the Doom, as they were known as in WWF, were battling it out for the tag team titles.
Yeah, because that would have been
one of those two guys were the tag team.
That would have been WrestleMania, after WrestleMania 7.
And we'd go from that. You get Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, went to a 15-minute time limit draw. Hacksaw Jim Duggan would defeat Nasty Boy Brian Knobbs with Jimmy Hart in his corner. IRS, Ernar Schweister, wow, easy for me to say, would defeat the Berserker by countout. Bret the Hitman Hart would destroy Pete Doherty by submission in 33 seconds. Skinner would defeat Virgil. Sid Justice got the victory over the Warlord, and the Phenom, The Undertaker, with Paul Bearer, would defeat Road Warrior Animal to round out the first round of the King of the Ring tournament.
That's insane.
Is it though? From there, you'd get just outside of the tournament, the Beverly Brothers would defeat the Bushwhackers. Before moving on to the quarterfinals, 3 quarterfinal matches again because of the one bye. You only get one semifinal match too. IRS would defeat Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Bret the Hitman Hart would defeat Skinner, and The Undertaker and Sid Justice would end in a double disqualification. I did see down here, Pete Doherty was a substitute for the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich, in this tournament. That kind of sucks, because we could have got Bret Hart versus Kerry Von Erich, the Texas Tornado, and wait, the carrier wasn't Kevin, that was the Texas Tornado.
Yeah, he was.
I think, yeah. But could you imagine if we would have gotten Bret versus Kerry Von Erich?
Oh my, the Von Erichs versus the Harts. Oh man, that would have been okay. My opinion, I would have saw that match going to a time limit draw.
I could have seen that, yeah. It might have been for the better, but going past that, this Undertaker Sid match, it does mention they were both disqualified for attacking the referee. After the match, Jake the Snake actually helped the Undertaker put Sid inside a casket. So
Wait a minute. What month was this?
that was September. Yeah, September 7th, 91.
Okay, so he wasn't a. So Sid was a face there. He
Sid
wasn't
must
a
be,
heel.
yeah, a good guy at that. Right.
What up?
Why,
How you
hello there,
doing?
Z-Dog.
Well, hi. It's
He's
so
doing
nice to be
good.
here.
Oh my god.
Tag me with a spoon. Like, oh my goodness.
So you haven't missed much. We're just talking about the original King of the Ring tournaments. We haven't gotten into the 1993 one. We're about to after this one, but we're talking the 1991 King of the Ring tournament at the moment.
Okay.
So this tournament, we'd see the whole brackets here. You can mention anything you want to on there. But the only semifinal match, of course, IRS would defeat Nasty Boys Jerry Sags, who had gotten a bye in the quarterfinals after beating Road Warrior Hawk in the first round, and Steamboat and DiBiase went to a draw. Bret Hart would get a bye because of the Undertaker and Sid going to a double DQ, leading to IRS versus the Hitman in the finals. IRS would go back-to-back matches and would lose to the Hitman in the finals, making Bret Hart the King of the Ring in 1991. That IRS and Jerry
Guess he
Sags
got
match
away
was only a
without
minute
paying
and
his
22
taxes.
seconds, so I guess it didn't hurt too much for IRS. What's that?
I guess he got away without paying his taxes.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, John, we had a laugh before you came in here. There was two instances. Oh, well, one shocker. Go down to the page about who Pete Dunley, Dorley, whatever the fuck his name is. Look who he
Doherty?
replaced. Yeah,
Yeah?
look who he replaced in the King of the Ring tournament that we could have
Whoops.
had a match between Brett and a Hall of Famer.
No!
Yes! You could have gotten Bret Hart versus the Texas Tornado.
I would have loved that.
Right?
I said to him, I think it would have. I think it won. I think it would have went to a 15-minute draw.
Oh, 100%.
And then there was an incident.
Yeah, it doesn't tell me anywhere it's on here either. Why?
I think the reason why they did this because the Texas Tornado was just lost the Intercontinental title back to Perfect, and that's when they took his leg off on national TV.
Them bastards.
Yeah, it could be.
Hey, should we tell him what DiBiase did
Right?
to get to his quarterfinal?
Do I want to know?
It's
Sure.
funny. It's funny.
All
right. So Ted DiBiase was supposed to face
Yeah, it was funny.
the outlaw Ron Bass. He paid the outlaw Ron Bass
In the semifinals of the year before.
in the semifinals to fake an injury so he could go to the next round.
You think that's bad? In the 1985 King of the Ring, the very first one, they had a double disqualification that led to a bye out of the first round for somebody. But in the second round, there was a there was a time limit draw, and they did a coin toss to determine which one of the two guys would move on to the next round.
What is this, the NFL?
It was Tito It was Tito Santana and Jim Brunzell.
Yes. And Jim Brunzell won the coin toss.
So Tito got robbed.
Yeah.
Yes. Tito did.
He should go on strike
I wonder
with a force.
I wonder who had the coin. I bet it was Jesse Ventura.
The dude from
I bet it
Predator?
was too.
Yeah. Hey, so me and him had a debate. On TV, Randy Savage beats Hacksaw Jim Duggan to be the King of the Ring. But if you look at the bracket, 1987, Randy Savage won the King of the Ring after WrestleMania. Do you consider Randy Savage a two-time WWE King of the Ring?
Was either one of these while he was the Macho King?
No, this is before the Macho King Monarch.
Then
You're
I
Don the
guess
Macho King Monarch.
technically, yeah.
Yeah, because the only two-timer is Brett.
He's the only two-time tournament winner.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in Brett's defense, he does know how to hit, man.
Ah, zing.
Yeah, my argument was that I wouldn't call Macho Man a two-time King of the Ring winner because he didn't win the tournament the second time. He just won a singles match against Hacksaw.
Hell, even Hacksaw Jim Duggan wasn't a king. It was only on
No,
TV.
he wasn't. Right.
Yeah, but in Hacksaw's defense, he won the first Royal Rumble, so it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Shall we move into the very first pay-per-view of the King of the Ring? Live from Dayton, Ohio, June 13th, 1993.
They went to a shithole like Ohio?
In the Nutter Center, 6,500 people there. We're going to go over the tournament before we go over this show, though. I must have missed something.
Coming to you live from the Nutter Center.
Oh, yeah.
Were they sponsored by Nutter Butter?
I don't know. But we call say it was in the heartland of America.
Oh, jeez. Before we get into the pay-per-view, the first round did take place on TV. Hart would get a bye out of the first round because of being the reigning King of the Ring. Reza Ramon would defeat Tito Santana. Mr. Perfect defeated Doink the Clown. Kamala would lose to Mr. Hughes by countout.
Who the
Jim
hell is
Duggan would
Mr.
defeat
Hughes?
Papa Shango. You don't know who Mr. Hughes is?
Hey, I recognize all the others.
Lord, somebody needs.
You don't know who Mr. Hughes is.
Him
Curtis Hughes. He used to dress like a gangster. And he always used to wear sunglasses in the ring.
Yeah, it's not ringing a bell.
He used to be with Chris Jericho in 1990, 99?
Something like that, I think so, yeah. He was in WWF and WCW. Picture didn't ring no bells either, huh?
Nope.
Anyway, Lex Luger would defeat
I
Bob
mean,
Backlund
the
by
picture
countout.
looked like
Narcissist
Thomas and
looked good.
The picture looked like
Tatanka would defeat Giant
Amos if
Gonzalez
he
by
was in
DQ.
Terminator.
Yeah.
Or was he a part of Right to Censor?
No, but the guy that faced Jim Duggan was.
Oh yeah. Because isn't Papa Shango
The Godfather?
Yeah. But for that he was the good father.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So that brings us to the actual King of the Ring. Huh. Apparently on the pre-show or the dark match, Papa Shango defeated Owen Hart to retain the USWA Unified World Heavyweight Championship. Who knew?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The actual
That's right. That's right. WWE had a partnership with them.
At that point. The actual pay-per-view would kick off with the Hitman, Bret Hart, defeating Reza Ramon in 10 minutes and 25 seconds. Razor, of course, still newer at that point, was a heel at the time. Interesting fact that we'll get into as we go along in this, Bret actually won every single match that he was in at this King of the Ring by pinfall. Not something you could say a lot of for Bret.
Mm-hmm.
We would then see a really good match that was Razor anyways. I remember that one. Mr. Perfect would defeat Mr. Hughes with Harvey Whippleman by DQ. Bam Bam Bigelow would defeat Hacksaw Jim Duggan in 4 minutes, 5 minutes almost. And total package, well, then the Narcissist, I believe. I don't think he was total package yet in 93 at that point. But Lex Luger would go to a time limit draw with Tatanka in the final quarterfinal match of the King of the Ring tournament. And he was there. Out of those 4 matches in the King of the Ring tournament to kick off the show, was there any one match that really sticks out to you more so than the rest? If you recall back to that pay-per-view.
My biggest one was, first of all, let's go back with Bret. Bret had an amazing first round with Scott Hall. The reason why Bret got a first round because of the Hulk Hogan bullshit from WrestleMania 9.
Right.
You know, so Bret was going to walk out, and Vince put him in the tournament and gave him a first round bye because he had this big vision of SummerSlam that year, Bret versus Hogan for the World Wrestling Federation title in Detroit, but Hogan, being the prick that he was, didn't want it. So yeah, mine was Bret Hart. That was a good match. My one I wish that didn't go to a draw was the Narcissist, Lex Luger, and Tatanka. I wish we had a winner with that, but that's the way it went back there, and it helped Bam Bam Bigelow. You know, so I feel like, but Bret did an excellent job in that match. I mean, Scott punched him in the face so many times.
Right. The interesting thing about that, you mentioned Lex and Tatanka and Bam Bam here. This is early on in Bam Bam's, all 3 of these guys' careers really in WWF. But to know the history that would happen after that, Bam Bam and Tatanka, of course, would become part of Money Incorporated, a tag team at times, champions, I believe, and had their issues with Lex even after Lex had turned face and they turned heel. So I guess Bam Bam, I think, technically was heel at this point, but still.
I mean, it's not part of the King of the Ring, but respect to Bam Bam because he was one of the first bigger guys to launch himself at Cannonball.
Yeah.
Right. It was.
I mean, till to this day, and we could go all the way from 9 until WrestleMania, WrestleMania 11. you know,
Oh Lord.
Bam Bam Bigelow, hands down, should be in the Hall of Fame for picking up that waste of a garbage, Lawrence Taylor.
Right?
He made Lawrence Taylor look like $1 million. The
He
only
did.
thing Lawrence Taylor is good for now is just to be on a registry.
Wow, if I didn't know better, I think you were an Eagles fan.
I am, but come on, you saw that match. That should have never been the main event of WrestleMania.
No.
Agreed.
The only thing that came good out of it was Salt and Pepper singing him to the ring.
Yeah, well. All right. Move on past that. After that, we'd see the one semifinal match as you got the Hitman Bret Hart defeating Mr. Perfect in a almost 20-minute classic there, 18 minutes, 56 seconds. I feel like that's something that we probably could have seen more of was Bret versus Mr. Perfect, because Kurt Hennig and Bret Hart had similar like wrestling styles, I guess you could say. And those two guys always knew how to put on a classic match.
I agree with you because I was at their first encounter at SummerSlam at Madison Square Garden when Bret won the Perfect.
Yeah, get your ass down there.
I know. I was there. I enjoyed it. Do I wish that we had more of I would have loved to see Perfect and Bret in the finals, but
yeah,
that's not the way it was. But that was a classic. But that could have won either way. I mean, that's the way I felt it. It could have won either way. I mean, but Bret pulled it out, and Perfect sort of didn't have a good run after that. You know,
true.
you know, yeah, he had a match with Shawn for the Intercontinental title, but it wasn't his fault because at this time, Perfect started getting back trouble.
Right. This is getting closer to the end of his time in WWF, of course, at that point as well.
Yeah.
Because didn't he have that loser leaves match
And we
with
go
Ric
from
Flair?
there. From that match.
Yeah, he did. It was right after the Royal. It was actually taped because I was at the taping. That match was taped before the Royal Rumble, so before the '93 Rumble. So I already knew what the outcome was, and then they showed it on Monday Night Raw the next week to see that Flair was still. So Flair was wrestling without a contract. They just didn't want to overkill it, so they did put it for the following week show.
Interesting. It's surprising that Flair's first run only lasted a year in WWF, but that's a story for another time. From there, they'd leave the King of the Ring tournament. After that was the only semifinal match. You got Yokozuna with Mr. Fuji with a little bit of help from James E. Cornette. We find out later. Defeating the immortal, well, Eddie, you can.
The immortal. Okay, hold on.
Immortal one, Hulk Hogan with Jimmy Hart in his corner to win the WWF Championship.
Yep, the immortal douchebag lost. Yay.
You mean the American prick?
Yep, that one too. Keep going.
Yeah,
We ain't gonna mess. We ain't gonna mess with the
Hogan would
NWO
lose
stuff
as
because
he would.
that was his good times.
The racist son of a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Right. that would, of course, be the pretty much the end of Hogan's run at that point in time in WWF. So
Thank goodness.
they move from that. You got the Steiner brothers and the Smoking Guns defeating Money Incorporated and the Head Shrinkers in the 8-man tag match. And Shawn Michaels, along with Diesel, would defeat Crush to retain the Intercontinental Championship. And of course, you got the finals of the King of the Ring tournament, where the Hitman Bret Hart would defeat Bam Bam Bigelow to become the King of the Ring, officially back-to-back as king.
No offense to Bret Hart, but I feel like Bam Bam would have been a better candidate for that.
I think I kind of agree with you.
I
But
agree.
like Eddie was saying
agree.
earlier, I almost feel like Vince felt like he owed Bret.
Yep, and
Yeah.
I agree. And I agree with you on that part. Bammer should have been the King of the Ring. Vince felt bad, and Bret Hart back in '93 was white hot to the fans. He wasn't white hot to Hulk Hogan, because Hogan always thought that he was better than everybody else. He even thought that he was better than Randy Savage, which was fucking insane. You know,
Right.
The only good thing about Hogan was his entry music, because that freaking slapped.
yeah. And then the match with Shawn and Demolition Crush. I'm sorry, Kona Crush. WWE really tried hard to get Crush over. I mean,
right.
I think his best work.
God rest Brian Soul.
Yep, I think his best work, Crush, was when he faced Matt Bourne as Doink the Clown. That was his only his best work, because
yes.
Matt Bourne couldn't work with garbage.
Wow.
Can
That
we
says
just
something.
also point out that Bam Bam Bigelow had one of the best names ever before he became Bam Bam?
I remember it was in Memphis, but I forgot what name. Was it Fireball something?
No, it was Crusher Yurkov.
That's right. That's right. It was on Young Rock.
Yep.
Wow. Man.
But when he came to
So it must be
WWE, they had him change it because of all the Cold War crap.
Makes sense. Must be they changed the time limits to 20 minutes with the semifinals and finals after the second or the quarterfinals. Since Brett and Perfect went almost 20 minutes after Lex and Tatanka had a 15-minute draw. Interesting first King of the Ring pay-per-view anyways. Like I said, seeing the end of Hulk Hogan in WWE pretty much at that point in time. Get to see Brett beating Bam Bam. A lot of these newer guys at that point in time were part of the show. Nice variety, because as we said, Razor Ramon was early on in his career. Bam Bam, Luger, and Tatanka all early on in their WWF careers anyways. Better known in other promotions beforehand, but so they weren't no rookies by any means. Well, other than Razor. Scott kind of did work in WCW, I think, some before that, but still wasn't a huge name.
Oh, yeah, the Diamond Stud.
Yes.
But here's another thing about that '93 King of the Ring. The ceremony when Jerry Lawler attacked Brent to start their 4.5-year feud.
Rivalry. Yes, I was going to mention that in a minute. King would attack. That was pretty much the beginning of Jerry Lawler's wrestling career in WWF for the most part.
Because he was a part.
Crown Brett with.
He was a part of the USW, that championship that they defend. He was the
USWA, yeah. Before Papa Shango.
Yeah.
Well, we'll move on from that to no offense to the other 3 King of the Rings that we're going to talk about now, but this is my favorite of these first 5 King of the Rings, the 1994 King of the Ring. Baltimore, Maryland, the Baltimore Arena, 12,000 people strong, rooting on.
I don't like it. It doesn't have a funny arena name.
Oh, well. We got going into this tournament. The first round happened on TV, probably on Raw. Quang. Remember that name, guys?
Yeah, Savio Vega.
I didn't really.
Yeah, it's Savio.
That was, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Quang. I didn't realize that until just now, but okay. He got beat by Razor Ramon
Mini Vader
in the first round. Yeah. Bam Bam Bigelow would defeat Thurman Plug, a.k.a. Hardcore Holly, as we'd later know him.
His name is Howard?
IRS would...
When did he become a Sparky?
That was his Thurman Sparkplug Holly.
Okay.
Yeah.
IRS would defeat Scott Steiner. Mabel would be Pierre Ouellette, otherwise known as CPO, I do believe. PCO nowadays. Doink the Clown would lose to Owen Hart. Crush would get beaten by Tatanka, who in that match replaced the originally announced Jimmy Del Rey, and Tatanka wrestled to a double countout on Monday Night Raw on May 30th, 1994. The 2 wrestled again the next week on Raw in a lumberjack match for the final slot in the King of the Ring. So this was a lumberjack match between Tatanka and Crush, which Tatanka would win. The 1-2-3 Kid would defeat Adam Bomb, and Jeff would beat Lex Luger by countout to advance to the quarterfinals.
Gotta love early on
X-Pac. 1-2-3. Yeah. So Thurman Plug would defeat Quang in the dark match before the show. The show would kick off with Razor Ramon. Back years in the opening contest of King of the Ring would defeat Bam Bam Bigelow with Luna Vachon. So Bam Bam would go from being in the finals in 93 to being eliminated in the quarterfinals in 1994 of the King of the Ring.
Well, who could forget his magic moment at WrestleMania 10? Wow, what a banger at the banger when him and Luna beat Doink and Deke.
Right? Interesting tag match from earlier that year. From there, we got IRS would defeat Mabel with Oscar in his corner. Mabel, of course, from Men on a Mission with Mo at that point in time. We'll get more into Mabel in the next years, but Owen Hart would defeat Tatanka, and in the final quarterfinal match, you get the 1-2-3 Kid defeating Jeff Jarrett. Yes, Sean Waltman was over quite a bit at that point in time, but his career. Pretty decent quarterfinals there. Then you'd go from that, you get Diesel with Shawn Michaels in his corner as the Intercontinental Champion, defeating the WWF Champion, Bret the Hitman Hart, with Jim the Anvil Neidhart in his corner by disqualification. Lengthy match that happened there. I believe Owen may have gotten involved in that as well, but interesting to see Diesel get a win over Bret at that point in time when Diesel was kind of on the come up.
Actually, Jim Neidhart caused the disqualification.
Turned on Bret. Yeah, because that led to Jim being in Owen's corner at SummerSlam that year. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And Davey Boy returning. So then we go from that match. You go into the semifinals where Razor Ramon would defeat IRS and Owen Hart would defeat the 1-2-3 Kid by submission. As you'd see Owen get his first victory with the sharpshooter in this tournament, on this night anyways. And then you got the Head Shrinkers with Afa and Captain Lou Albano in their corner, defeating Crush and Yokozuna with Jim Cornette and Mr. Fuji to retain the WWF Tag Team titles. Wow. Forgot about that. And then in the finals of the King of the Ring tournament, you got the Rocket, Owen Hart, the eventual two-time Slammy Award winner that he'd love to flaunt, defeating Razor Ramon to become the King of Hearts, one of my favorite monikers of all time. And Owen might have been the bad guy in that story with Brett, but I feel like you couldn't help but feel bad for Owen in some ways with the whole route they went with that rivalry and kind of root for Owen, even though you weren't supposed to. That's my opinion, though. I was always a big Bret Hart fan, but I really enjoyed Owen as well. And Owen made the King of the Ring feel so much bigger than Bret ever did the year before.
I mean, hell, did you see the crown? Did you see the crown and then that Owen wore? That shit was so fucking big on him. He looked like
I know, right?
Like, what the hell? 93 one looked so prestigious. 94 looked like Vince McMahon saying, I'm not going to spend that much money. Let me just throw shit together.
Right? Interesting that
He looked like a member of the Lollipop Guild.
He did.
Look at that. Interesting that the main event actually saw Roddy Piper defeat Jerry the King Lawler as well after that. So Owen only won by submission once, too, when he beat the 1-2-3 Kid. Interesting.
Was this the one in Philadelphia?
No, this is Baltimore.
Okay.
No, it was in Baltimore.
Okay, the commentating sucked on that.
Well, what do you expect? It was Baltimore.
The commentators. The commentators were Gorilla Monsoon, Randy Savage, and Art Donovan. So.
Yeah, Man, if you go through, have you watched the 94 yet?
It's been a little while, but I've seen it.
Go through that whole thing and hear how Randy Savage was happy, and then towards the end, he was getting so pissed off at Art Don and not knowing what the fuck he was talking about that I thought he was gonna jump up and punch the old guy.
Right. I don't blame him.
The only reason he didn't is because he was told that he wouldn't get Slim Jims.
I'm sure. I know he had issues with Art Donovan on Monday Night Raw because Donovan was part of Raw a lot during those days too, on commentary.
No, that was what the hell's it got? It was not Art Donovan. It was some other guy, radio disc jockey.
Oh yeah, it was.
I know his name. I just forgot it. Damn.
Is he from Michigan?
No, he was a New York disc jockey.
Okay, so it wasn't Kaysen?
No. WWE got rid of him after Jim Ross came in after 93. It was God, what was his name? It's on the tip of my tongue, but I know the guy's name. No. But look at the referees: Mike Conona, Danny Davis, and Earl Hebner, and Joey Morella.
Wow.
Gorilla Monsoon's son.
Yep. Huh.
Is that
I
any
felt like Joey Morello
relation
was
to Santino?
Santino.
No. It's Gorilla Monsoon's son.
Well, my highlights in the 94 King of the Ring, Owen winning it, and then the match with Brett and Kevin Nash. That was
All right.
that
King
was
of the
all
Ring
good.
pay-per-view. Yeah, that's for sure was the best part of it, was Owen winning it. And like I said, he made it the year before, and just playing off as the King of Hearts gimmick going forward from that was perfection. I felt like the best King of the Ring perhaps we ever had, really. Arguably. And I'm sure many people would disagree with that, but I'll stand on that. So, anything you want to add about the 94 one before I move in fully to the 95 one, John?
No, not really.
Okay. So we'll move on to 1995, King of the Ring. You got June 25th, 95, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the course date Spectrum. 16,590 people strong to watch this episode of the King of the Ring. Going into the tournament, you got Mabel defeating Adam Bomb on TV in the first round. Ryan Clark. Jeff Jarrett would get beat by The Undertaker. Kama would beat Duke the Dumpster Droese. King Kong Bundy would lose to Shawn Michaels. Bob Holly would beat Mantar. The Roadie would defeat Doink the Clown. Yokozuna would beat Lex Luger by countout, and Razor Ramon would beat Blue.
I forgot all about Mantar.
I did too. I don't want
So-
to mention him. Oh my god.
What?
Who does
Eddie and I both forgot about Mantar.
How did you forget about Mantar? I wish I could. I can't, though. So apparently, Yokozuna got into the match with Lex because Owen and Davey Boy Smith wrestled to a 15-minute time limit draw on Raw on June 5th. In a King of the Ring qualifying match, Yoko would defeat Luger the next week on Raw for the final slot in the King of the Ring tournament. And then Razor Ramon got his spot because Savio Vega defeated IRS in a match prior to the pay-per-view to fill the vacancy left due to Razor Ramon's rib injury. So suffered on June 9th in Uniondale, New York in a ladder match against Jeff Jarrett. Ramon had qualified on May 16th, but Savio would take his spot because of the injury. Which brings us to the King of the Ring itself. As mentioned here, the pre-show or the buy-in or whatever they wanted to call it back that day. Savio beating IRS to win the qualifying match, leading to Savio Vega defeating Yokozuna with Jim Cornette and Mr. Fuji by countout in the very first quarterfinal match on the pay-per-view. So Savio Vega was definitely on the come up, and I felt like was kind of over with the crowd at that point in time, coming off of his whole Quang gimmick he had the year before, a couple of years before for the most part. But we'll get more into Savio Vega's night as we go through this. The Roadie, of course, with Jeff Jarrett and him, of course. Kama with Ted DiBiase would wrestle Shawn Michaels to a 15-minute time limit draw, and then Mabel with Mo
You didn't know.
I asked me to call somebody. And of course, Mabel from Man on the Mission, Mo in his corner would defeat The Undertaker with Paul Bearer. That was, in my opinion, a huge upset at that time for Mabel to beat The Undertaker, because Mabel was definitely a tag team specialist. And in my opinion, even to this day, there is no reason that he beat The Undertaker in that match. The Undertaker should have won. Just poor booking. Poor booking. What do you guys take out of that first 4 matches, the quarterfinals. Savio Vega, of course, having 2 matches, one on the pre-show, one to kick off the show, as he gets himself into the King of the Ring tournament.
I got to go with Shawn Michaels and The Godfather. 15 minutes. I mean, for comment at that time, after coming off the Papa Shango gig, I mean, that shows that he was a good worker.
Right.
The trashy one, Undertaker should have won, and Mabel's ass should have went into the back of the line because he wasn't. I still to this day, and we're gonna get to the results. I don't see him as a threat to anybody. He could have faced
Right.
Doink. He could have faced Doink the Clown, and Doink the Clown wouldn't beat him.
You're forgetting one thing. He was a man on a mission.
Yep, and that's why he should have went to a mission.
Wow. They should have just kept them as a tag team anyways. But
Why you think Oscar left? He didn't want to be a heel. He just said, I have religious beliefs. So that's why he left the company.
Right. No blame him. So from there, we go in to the semifinal, the one semifinal match, because Mabel gets a bye because of the time limit draw. Savio Vega defeats the Roadie to advance to the finals. And then you got the infamous Kiss My Foot match, as Bret the Hitman Hart would defeat Jerry the King Lawler and make the King kiss his foot and his own foot as well.
I still don't know
A
how
match
he
that
did
was
that.
2 years. He made him into a pretzel.
Yeah.
And of course, we get to the finals where Mabel with Mo would defeat Savio Vega with Razor Ramon to win the King of the Ring. That's the main reason I say this was a blasphemous, perhaps one of the, I can't say it was the worst, which we'll get into more of that when we talk about the other King of the Rings next week. But this was definitely one of the top 3 probably worst King of the Ring tournaments in the history of the King of the Ring, in my opinion. Not necessarily counting the ones we talked about earlier that happened very early on, but talking 93 through 90.
Yep, and in the spirit of the King of this King of Ring, I'm gonna go to one of my favorites back in the attitude. Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better not watch this anymore, because this was the trashiest King of the Ring. I actually skipped this King of the Ring because it was the only Savio's journey from the pre-show to the finals. Excellent. After that, this shit became garbage.
Right. As soon as Mabel
Savio
beat
should have
Undertaker.
completed the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing semi-worth watching on this was probably Bret and King, but that still wasn't their best match, really.
Mm-mm.
And really, if you look at, I mean, I know they're playing off the whole Razor being injured and Savio hero of it all, but if you look at that, honestly, don't you think Yoko should have been the one to go over Savio Vega in that first round, though, in the quarterfinals, besides Undertaker going over Mabel?
Absolutely. I totally agree with you.
Yes, we had seen Yokozuna versus The Undertaker a few times, but honestly, when you look at the 8 guys that were in this tournament on that night, Undertaker and Yoko Yoko are the two names that should have been in the final.
Agreed.
And that would have played off perfectly to their match at the Royal Rumble the previous year.
Right. Like I said, it was poor booking decision, that's for sure.
Yep.
The main event saw Bam Bam Bigelow and Diesel defeat Sid and Tatanka with Ted DiBiase in a tag team match. Diesel would have been the WWF champion at that time. So,
oh, look at
just
that.
a weird.
Let me right there.
Yeah. Just a weird year overall for WWF. 1995 was, and the whole Mabel experience.
Still to this day, Kevin Nash. Still to this day, Kevin Nash Kevin Nash said in multiple interviews on his own podcast, he said he wished they would have picked Taker, Shawn, or Yoko to fight him for the title at SummerSlam because Mabel hurt a lot of people. I don't know if it was purpose or he just couldn't do. That's why I didn't see Mabel that much after this, because they had to give him more training because he hurt a lot of people.
Right.
It would have been much better if
definitely.
you won King of the Ring as Viscera.
Yes. Later on. All right, let's move on to a much better King of the Ring, shall we? 1996 King of the Ring from Milwaukee, Wisconsin's Mecca Arena. 8,762 people there. Go into the tournament. Instead of calling it the first round, they call it the round of 16. That happened on TV, and then the quarterfinals happened on TV, as we only get the semifinals and finals. But Ahmed Johnson would get beat by Vader. Goldust and the Ultimate Warrior would wrestle to a double countout. Hunter Hearst Helmsley would get beat by Jake the Snake Roberts. Justin Hawk Bradshaw would defeat Henry O. Godwin. Stone Cold Steve Austin would defeat Bob Holly by submission with the $1 Million Dream. Marty Jannetty would get beat by Savio Vega. Marvelous Mark Merrow would beat Skip of the Body Donnas. Owen Hart would beat Yokozuna. And then in the quarterfinals, Vader would, of course, get the bye because of the Goldust and Warrior double countout. Jake the Snake would beat Justin Hawk Bradshaw. Gold would beat Savio Vega. And Mark Merrow would beat Owen Hart to advance to the semifinals.
Did he have Sable distracting everyone?
Actually on TV. What's that?
Did he have Sable distracting everybody?
Yeah, I think she was with him at the time.
Yeah. She was. So before the show, we had the New Rockers, Marty Jannetty and Leif Cassidy, later, of course, better known as Alex Snow, would get beat by the Body Donnas, Skip and Zip. Skip, of course, Chris Candido. Hunter Hearst Helmsley would also defeat Aldo Montoya. Then we go into the main show. Kicks off with Stone Cold Steve Austin, of course, facing Mark Merrow with Sable in the semifinal match. We all know what happened with that match. Stone Cold would get the win, but would also get his face busted and would have to go to the hospital after the match before he could go on to the finals later on in the show. The beginning of the Attitude Era kind of starts here at the 1996 King of the Ring, I think many people would say. And of course, this was a huge night for the Rattlesnake. And the fact that he would go and get, now I can't remember if it was 16 stitches or how many stitches exactly he had to get. But
16.
I know he had Yeah, I think it was 16 stitches. And then was able to come back and compete again against Jake in the finals. Incredible. Showed you how much this meant to Steve Austin. That's for sure. I will get into a little nugget when it comes to the finals as well here in a moment. But Jake Roberts would defeat Vader by disqualification, and of course would get destroyed by Vader afterwards with multiple Vader bombs. So Jake was not 100% going into the finals as well. He had injured ribs. This point in time, of course, Jake the Snake Roberts was a much different character than what we knew him as back in the day, because this was the Bible-thumping version of Jake the Snake Roberts, of course. He was the reborn Jake the Snake, kind of. So, you want to add anything to that? Go ahead.
Not really. I mean, he was still over, but yeah.
Wasn't the same Jake the Snake, that's for sure.
Nope.
All right. From there, you go in. You got the Smoking Guns with Sonny in their corner, defeating the Godwins with Hillbilly in their corner to retain the WWF Tag Team titles. Quite the interesting rivalry, the Smoking Guns and the Godwins had, involving Sonny in there throughout that year for the most part. That summer especially. Back when Sonny was hot.
Yeah, I like her this way too.
Well, Tammy Sitch is more of a drug addict nowadays than she is anything.
It's more like an everything bagel.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say this, and I know we're live. Back then, I had a lot of wet dreams.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did for Sonny back then, to be honest.
Thank you, Sonny, for
some Tori Wilson came on.
Thank you, Sonny, for some great moments. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yes. Oh, yes. Also on that show, you got the Ultimate Warrior. Yes, I'm changing subjects now, but you got the Ultimate Warrior defeating.
Not ran out of fireworks. God damn it. Low budget this week.
Your budget's been tough.
Damn it.
Yep. The Ultimate Warrior would defeat Jerry the King Lawler as well on the show. Mankind would defeat The Undertaker with Paul Bearer by technical submission. Mandible Claw would be out. Ahmed Johnson would defeat Goldust with Marlena to win the Intercontinental Championship. That brings us to the finals of the King of the Ring tournament. First things first, Stone Cold technically wasn't originally supposed to be the King of the Ring in 1996. Of course, for anybody who isn't familiar with that, originally Hunter Hearst Helmsley was going to be the 1996 King of the Ring. But then the infamous walkout, if you will, happened as Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, Diesel, and Razor Ramon would say their goodbyes. We'd have in the garden, of course, the big hoopla, if you will, as Triple H and Shawn Michaels would come out there and kind of celebrate with Diesel and Razor and send them on their way. Hunter's discipline, or whatever you want to call it, here, of course, would be getting the King of the Ring taken away from him for taking part in that, because you can't do anything to Shawn when he's one of your top guys, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody had to take the fall.
Here's the funny thing about that. I was at the curtain call incident at the Garden.
Yes.
It was even going to be even worse because the 1, 2, 3 kid was supposed to be in part of that, but he was in rehab for cocaine use. Pictured him, Scott, Kevin, Hunter, and Shawn all in the steel cage doing this thing. It was a madhouse that night because everybody talked about it even outside the garden. Like, whoa, what the hell is Sean and Hunter going to WCW? Is that going to be the new? Is this going to be a new group? Is it going to be? Are they going to do that? Still to this day, I wish Shawn Michaels would have said to Vince, "Kiss my ass, I'm going to WCW," and that will be the version of the NWO.
Could you imagine? Wow. Sean, Kevin, and Hunt and Scott as the NWO instead of having Hogan in there.
Yeah.
I think WCW would have put WWE out of business.
Picture that. Like, I can see that right now. Paul and Nash comes in just as themselves. Just as themselves. And then they say that there's a third man, but they're not going to tell who it is. And then we don't see Shawn Michaels on Monday Night Raw, but we see that Vince has to say, oh, there was an injury, that we had to strip Shawn Michaels, and he's out indefinitely. And then Shawn appears up at Bash at the Beach. Take out Luger, and you have Hogan, Savage, and Sting in that match.
Right.
Shawn walks out, everything goes thin, and then he super kicks Hogan.
Cool.
And tell me right then and there that Vince McMahon would have been, that was in July. Vince McMahon would have been out of business in October. Because I don't think, without Shawn Michaels as their anchor, I don't think he could survive.
I'd agree. If Sean would have left, that would have been it for WWE, WWF time.
And then picture Triple H would have said no to Vince. And he went to WCW. And it would have been, this. And then what would have happened if The Undertaker would have went?
Right.
And then add Savage to the thing. I think if Sean was still in contract negotiations at this time for a new contract. Sean didn't want to leave Vince. But if he would have, and this is when Shawn Michaels was an asshole, picture Shawn Michaels would have went there. NWO, WCW would have still been in business today.
Quite possibly, yeah.
Oh, the endless thing. But yeah, picture that, man. But yeah, I mean, that's my opinion. I mean that. But it was sucky that Triple H didn't get a chance to be King of the Ring on this year's.
Right. But of course, his loss was another man's gain, as Stone Cold Steve Austin would go on to win the King of the Ring tournament, defeating Jake the Snake Roberts in the finals. Like we said, neither one was 100% going into the match. Whoops. So they had a decent match, but it wasn't as good of what you would think a Stone Cold Jake Roberts match could have been. I mean, it was a 4.5 minute match, pretty much. But I think the thing that most people remember compared to anything else when it comes to that year's tournament is what happened after the King of the Ring tournament. Of course, you got Doc Hendricks interviewing the winner of the King of the Ring, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and you get the birth of Austin 316.
Stone Cold 316 says, "I just whoop your ass."
Yes. Of course, he mentions you sit there, you thump your Bible, you say prayers. They talk about John 3:16. Well, Austin 3:16 says, "I just whooped your ass." So the biggest. He might have been a heel at the time, but it was the biggest turning point for WWE at that point in time. So in a way, it was probably for the better. I'm in the middle of something. Can I help you?
Uh-oh.
But yeah. So then, of course, from there, Austin gets a huge spot, and you got Shawn Michaels in the main event going up against the British Bulldog for the WWF Championship. Mr. Perfect was the outside enforcer. Davey Boy had his wife Diana and Jim Cornette in his corner. Of course, Shawn had the legendary Jose Lothario in his corner. Still got his music playing. That's crazy. That was the time when, like you said, Shawn was kind of a prick, but you had Jose Lothario there to kind of try and make things a little bit better in ways, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. My opinion, I think that the British Bulldog should have won the title.
Oh, I agree. That's one man. Bulldog is definitely one guy that should have been champion that never was.
Him and Owen should have been WWE champion at some point in their career.
Bam Bam.
Bam Bam, yes. Bam Bam, well. I would say personally, I don't know what you guys think, but to me in 1995, I mean, you had Owen win in 94, of course. I mean, sorry, not 95, 94. You had Owen win the King of the Ring in 94. I think he should have beaten Bret in that steel cage match at SummerSlam in 94 for the championship.
Cole?
You know, you got a point there, but, you know, Vince was a little leery about putting titles on people that he thought was not worthy enough. You know, he felt comfortable with Bret, but I get it. But hey, I agree with you with that, but Vince McMahon had other priorities that night at the 94 SummerSlam. He had his biggest main event of all time that night. The Undertaker versus The Undertaker. I mean, man, that was a blockbuster.
Right? That was a flop, really. But
yeah.
That match can rest in peace.
I mean, hell. I gotta give it up to Brian Lee. He did repeat his role, but he was Kane.
Yeah.
It still sucked.
True. Yeah, I'd agree. Not only that, Owen should have won at SummerSlam 94, but I agree with you that Davey Boy should have won here at the King of the Ring over Shawn as well. There was a few different times they could have pulled the trigger and had Davey Boy win in his rivalry with Shawn, though, and they didn't.
Because if you look at this, there was rumors going around that Shawn, because right after this, Shawn had some pay-per-views. You know, he had that 6-man tag with Cornette Camp after this. And then it was supposed to be him and Allman Johnson and the Warrior against, you know, Vader, Owen, and the Bulldog. But then Sid got put in it, you know, and then you had SummerSlam that Vader was going to lose and then get a rematch. And this is where Shawn got pissed and ruined Vader's chance as WWE champion, because at Survivor Series that year, it was supposed to be It was supposed to be Vader defeating Shawn for the title because the next pay per view was going to be It's Time, which is Vader's monologue against Bret Hart. So
Right.
Shawn killed Vader's chance as champion.
Well, Shawn probably killed Davey Boy's chance too, unfortunately.
Yeah, because Shawn didn't
That point,
care.
yeah.
He thought he was the best.
Right.
Then,
Well, he's definitely up there.
I mean, he is, but
Yeah.
we're not saying that he wasn't a. But back then, you did it for the company, not for yourself.
Right.
But also, look where Shawn Michaels came from. He was just a tag team guy originally,
Yeah,
and now he ended up being one of the biggest stars of the brand.
that's true. That's true. I get that part, but he did get a lot of leeway from Vince, and I don't know. Sometimes you always think about, man, what would have happened if Bulldog was a champ? I think he would have had a great run.
Probably.
And not to mention, Shawn Michaels changed his name to Johnny Gargano. According to R-Truth.
And Triple H
Right.
and Ciampa didn't win the 1996 Royal Rumble, the 96 King in the Ring. I'm so sorry about that, Hunter.
It's okay. He won the 2002 and Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
No, instead, Hunter got relegated to the dark match before the show to beat Aldo Montoya.
Yeah, I know. And it was just incredible.
Exactly. That view who Aldo Montoya was. Just incredible. All right, any last comments about the 1996 King of the Ring before we move on to the last one to mention here tonight?
Well, Goldust got his ass kicked.
He did by Ahmed Johnson, even though it was a 15.5-minute match.
And that was the debut of the Hardy Boys in that event.
Oh, yes, because they were the ones that opened the doors.
Yeah, and they got smashed by Ahmed Johnson.
It did. Forgot about that. Body Donis had Cloudy with them at that point in time.
Oh, my God. I still want to know who Cloudy was.
Who was Cloudy?
I have no idea. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Oh, look, we're the hosts, John.
Welcome to Tiger Talks Wrestling with your host. I am Z-Dog, and this is Eddie from the Bronx.
Hey, how are
Today
you?
we are talking about the 1997 King of the Ring. Started off with the Headbangers, and let me tell you, the Headbangers are going to be in their first WWE 2K video game coming up with as a DLC characters. Oh, you're back.
That's right. They're going to be in this year's one. That's going to be pretty cool to have the Headbangers in there.
Oh yeah, first time.
First time since WWF No Mercy.
Yep.
Oh, well, let me find out.
It's not working?
No, I'm back in. I'm just trying to figure out who Cloudy was.
No, I'm saying it's not working the web to you.
It didn't have it highlighted, so I can. I was trying to find out who Cloudy was, and I hit a wrong button and went on this screen instead of a different screen. Sorry about that, guys.
That's right. I was trying to figure out who she was because
I don't know.
Anyway, I caught John was mentioning Headbangers, who on the pre-show, or the free-for-all, as they called it back then, beat Bart Gunn and Jesse James to kick off the proceedings.
I have
Holy shit, they beat the Outlaws.
Because that's what Martian Thrashing
Wait,
were
was
known as.
Cloudy
You'll
a
see 'em in the-
guy?
Possibly. But always wore a dress, so
Why are you wearing that?
Yeah.
and makeup.
My funny moment of the Headbangers when they dress up like pimps for the Godfather's team at Survivor Series.
Oh yes, nice. So this was the as I'm seeing this now, this King of the Ring had the least amount of participants in the King of the Ring tournament at that point in time.
Why?
I think probably ever,
Why?
as there was only 8 men that competed in this tournament. Oh, sorry, 7.
Only 7.
Yes, one guy got into it, had 2 quarterfinal matches. Because on TV, Ahmed Johnson beat Hunter Hearst Helmsley by DQ, and then Hunter Hearst Helmsley was allowed another spot in the tournament because he was not properly instructed prior to his match with Ahmed Johnson the previous week that he could be eliminated via disqualification, and thus threatened the WWF with legal action. Vader was originally in this spot to compete against Crush, but sustained a broken nose after his no-holds-barred match with Ken Shamrock at In Your House A Cold Day in Hell on May 11th. This gave Hunter Hearst Helmsley the opportunity to fill in the vacant spot and face Crush. Vader fought Ahmed on the May 26th episode of Raw's War for his spot, but lost.
Oh, I'm so sad.
So Hunter Hearst Helmsley would lose to Ahmed Johnson by DQ, but then would a week later beat Crush to advance to the semifinals. Goldust would get beat by Jerry the King Lawler, and Mankind would defeat Savio Vega.
How rude are you, sir?
So, an interesting turn of events for those 7 individuals in the King of the Ring tournament in 97. We'd kick off the show with Hunter Hearst Helmsley with China in his corner,
China!
defeating Ahmed Johnson in a rematch from their qualifying match. And then Mankind would defeat Jerry the King Lawler with the Mandible Claw, of course. Why are you putting up 2?
Oh, so to answer your question, Cloudy was a guy named Jimmy Shoulders, who was best friends with Chris Candido.
Alrighty.
Okay.
That doesn't tell me nothing. I never heard that name.
Who?
But that makes sense.
I don't know who.
Yeah, you wouldn't know who, but we kind of know some of those names anyway.
I know.
Yeah.
Vader
We're old.
and Owen and some others.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the 97 King of the Ring. After those 2 semifinal matches, you get Goldust with Marlena defeating Crush with D'Lo Brown and Clarence Mason. And then the Hart Foundation of Owen Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and the British Bulldog would defeat Psycho Sid and the Legion of Doom in a 6-man tag match. That had to have been, it's been a while since I've watched it, but quite the 6-man tag team match with those 6 guys involved.
They were good.
Man, I remember back when Sid was Justice.
Here, I thought Sid was better when he was vicious. Pyro!
Hi-yo!
The fireworks.
Pew, 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 pew.
Oh, thank you.
No, thank you.
Of course, we get the battle of the WWF Tag Team Champions, as you got the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin,
What?
who are then Tag Team Champions, competing for disqualification.
What? Why?
I know I skipped over a match, but I'll get into it in a second.
Why double the...
Because if I remember right, they decided both to beat up the referee
Oh,
because they were Tag Team Champions, but they couldn't stand each other.
oh. So why were they the champions and why were they attacking if they couldn't stand each other?
Because it's
But-
Vince McMahon. And Vince McMahon loved throwing people together that didn't like each other at times.
But hear about this, like you're talking about the Shawn Michaels Stone Cold match. This actually helped a wrestler debut his third character after this.
Yeah, Mick.
Mick Foley?
Yeah. This helped him debut Dude Love.
No.
Cesaro.
Yeah, I must have missed the end of that match.
Yeah, you did. It's okay though. John Moxley won.
Moxley got the win.
Yeah. And then the other two guys, him beat.
Takeshita helped beat him up
Yeah. And
until
then
Claudio came out.
and there's the Swiss Superman came and helped him.
Gotcha. But yeah, of course, Dude Love would come eventually after that, which is good. Just before that match between, as I seen you had Sako on, John.
Mr. Choco.
Wrong version. The Sako was white though, not black. But yes.
Wait, why is it Choco
It's
black?
tan.
Sure. But anyway, of course, before that Austin and Michaels match, you got the finals of the King of the Ring tournament, which saw Hunter S. Helmsley, with help from China, defeat Mankind to win the King of the Ring.
Oh, China always helps themselves.
China at that point did help Hunter win quite a lot. So
Yeah, and the ref is too dumb to check and do other things.
and of course, the main event saw The Undertaker with Paul Bearer defeat Farouk with Savio Vega, D'Lo Brown, Crush, and Clarence Mason to retain the WWF Championship that he had won at WrestleMania.
So basically, Nation of Domination.
Yes, it was the Nation of Domination with Farouk.
Nation domination. Da-na-na-na.
The first version of the Nation.
Yeah. The very first version of him.
Not the best version.
Because right after
Right.
this, everybody knows the match after this. Ahmed Johnson came out and attacked The Undertaker.
Why
Yeah, because he joined the Nation.
Why did you want the Nation of Allegation
Domination.
or domination?
It's okay. He was only there for 1 week. And then he got
1
injured
week.
and kicked him out.
Oh.
Yep.
So he got injured, so they had to kick him out.
Well, I think that was pretty much the end of seeing him on TV for a long time. So,
Yeah. And then we
if I remember
got
correctly.
That's Flynn.
and then we got the best version when they added Kama, D'Lo, Farouk, and the most electrifying man in all of sports.
Hey, you're forgetting about somebody. You're forgetting about Mr. Sexual Chocolate himself.
Well, he was after it, but the final boss, The Rock, and then Sexual Chocolate.
He can't even talk without them beating him.
Yes, the 11 guys would join in eventually.
Part I like about The Rock, he gave everybody a Rolex, and he gave a picture of himself to Farouk. Like, here's a picture of me.
No, stop.
Damn.
Don't. Actually, don't, please. Actually, don't, please.
Right? It was definitely an interesting time for the Nation at that point in that title match. I mean, Farouk was, of course, coming off of his old Farouk Ahmad, I think, character, where he had to wear that blue helmet and the blue gear, and it was a trash character, and this was definitely more of what Ron Simmons needed to have happen for his career.
Somebody help Adam, please. He's about to get hit with a chair. this. Why are they torturing poor Adam?
Anything else to add to the 1997 King of the Ring tournament before we close out for this week?
Just that
No.
Hunter Hearst movie is a little bitch.
Kind of was. So, one nice thing out of those versions of the King of the Ring, going from 85 to 97, there was some shockers in there early years that won the King of the Ring tournament. Some names I had never really realized. Which one of those 5 King of the Ring pay-per-views, though, would you guys say was your favorite before we move on to next week's show, the other half of the King of the Ring pay-per-views?
I'd be a toss-up between 94 and 96.
My top 3. I have 4. I got the 93, 94, 96, and 97 are my top ones.
Wait, who's that?
All right.
Oh. I don't know anybody.
Yeah, I could see that. I'd say it'd be 94 is my favorite, and then 96 probably would be right behind it.
Kyle, I didn't watch that.
Still 3-on-2.
Exactly. I need one more.
I mean, like 94 gave you the true underdog story to win it.
Right?
No,
With Owen.
no.
And like I said, I still, to this day, feel like Owen did the most with the King of the Ring moniker than anybody ever has. So,
Oh, come on. What about King Corbin, Best king ever.
yeah, right. The only other person I'd say maybe would come close to Owen with the King moniker would be King Booker.
Oh, yeah. King Booker.
Oh, hell, King Booker.
And he changed his voice to sound
I know,
more.
right?
You disgrace King Booker. It's like, whoa.
I mean, we'll talk more. We'll talk
Go
even more
back to
about that next
Harlem.
week. Yeah, really.
Oh, all the right ones are back. Yay.
I want to hear it say the Shiggy Dug Quack Quack with that voice.
Could you imagine?
Talking graphic, quack, quack.
Those lines, I'm sure it would be.
Do that for Wesley.
Picture him doing King Booker goes, cook that trick. Cook that trick.
Right?
Trying to think, picture him doing Trick Williams with that voice.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, that's for sure.
What's 2 plus 2? Do you know, Booker? Thomas Jefferson, sucker.
I know. I just can't wait to see who's going to win this year's. I mean, I got my pick. I got you.
Yeah, well, we'll go over that more next week,
But
Yeah.
too.
Ugh.
John, I believe you had something you wanted to add, not King of the Ring related, but we were talking about certain other WWE wise yesterday that you wanted to discuss more so on here.
So, first of all, during this whole of me just jotting stuff down on a notebook based on the clues and pictures, my wife thought I was crazy. But now, if you go through just those pictures we got in this last QR code, right off the bat, you have the smiley face. The Joe Gacy knee pads. We knew he was going to be involved, but that confirms it. Later in the picture, you'll have where on the floppy disk that says tomorrow's date and Twitch. Yeah,
You need your visual
yes,
aid.
thank you,
Yes,
thank you.
yes,
My
yeah,
visual
your
aid.
visual aid.
As you can see, I went crazy.
Good Lord.
Right?
But so you had the board, the table with the floppy disk and all that. This one's a little bit of a stretch, but if you look at the chords, they're in an X, almost like a cross, Nikki Cross.
Yep.
The missing persons poster, Wendy Lucho. You rearrange those letters, you get Uncle Howdy.
Yeah.
And then in the blackout, it looks like you can see some of a mask. If you enhance it just a little bit, you get the sheet mask, which was Rowan. And all the messages are on ripped up index cards. Dexter Loomis. But that's not even the best part. So, yes, I want that. No, you can have it.
The last one.
You can have it. Anyways, so there was the can you see it? All these John Cena references. Is John Cena a part of it? No. But who is the current John Cena of WWE?
Truth.
Cody Rhodes.
Yes.
So Cody Rhodes is going to be that first person they attack.
Why Cody? I like Cody.
Maybe.
No, not Cody.
And the last clue would bring in that sixth member, which we all know who it is. We've known this one for a while. But there was can you keep a secret? Besides Bray Wyatt, who's the only other person to say that?
Alexa Bliss.
There you go. Booyaka!
You
So
sure you
just
don't?
remember, tomorrow, 4 o'clock,
You sure
Twitch.
you don't?
Find
You
the
sure you don't?
stream, watch the
You,
clues decipher.
you sure you don't want to be a private eye detective from WWE?
They don't pay enough.
Oh my God.
It's all there. The proof is in the pudding.
Oh my God. Too bad we don't have detective music.
All right. God's been sleuthing away hard.
Agent man.
Detective music.
Oh God. Inspector Gadget.
So I was sitting in my office thinking about the Wyatt Six mystery. Then this sexy woman comes in and she says she's my wife and she wants to be my mommy. She said, "Doll, I got something you can do. Keep watching scoops of things of a code to figure out who the Wyatt Six memory." I have been doing that on a squiggly paper, and then I hit a dead end. I had to go to my mentor, Leslie Nielsen, and George Kennedy, and they helped me figure it out because they found The Undertaker in 1994.
30 years ago.
Oh my God. Johnny, I love you so much, my man. You took the time and that. Give him applause, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yeah, oh, this is for you, baby. This is for you.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Who the fuck needs Murder, She Wrote?
Right?
Oh my God. Nigga, you can replace Columbo. Just
I
the
got the
fact.
perfect music for my show.
Oh my. Yo,
Lord.
we should start a show, True Detective, the mystery of WWE, past WWE things. Oh.
LA.
Yeah, that's the Mets theme song. I will not like that on this show ever again.
Right?
Oh, then I probably shouldn't say that. All this hard work is brought to you by the Boston Red Sox.
Well,
Oh,
then you did absolutely no work.
We'll find out after the code deciphers tomorrow on Twitch at 4
Oh my
o'clock.
God. This is why we love doing this shit, man. This shit, we come off with like, oh my God. Oh, these retro shows are going to kill me in a good way.
right. All right. Well, speaking of next week, of course, as we mentioned, part 2 of this King of the Ring retrospective. And we'll have 1998 through 2002 pay-per-view wise, and then we'll discuss the rest of the King of the Ring tournaments that have taken place since 2002 as well. Quite an interesting pack that's been. They've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 if you count the Queen's Crown tournament since the 2002 pay-per-view, and they've also got, of course, the 8th and 9th ones happening right now as we speak as well. So,
Right now.
if you count them,
Oh my God. Are we going to talk about Bob? No, it's Billy.
It doesn't matter. What?
You
My
talk about
bad.
everybody. John's getting reprimanded over there.
Mhm.
But anyway, yes, we will discuss all that next Thursday. I set it as a 7 o'clock start time because there's no wrestling on to have to worry about, so we should be good on that. We can go till 9 or whenever, but you guys are both good then. I'll see you both then. And of course, as we have discussed, at some point Friday night, late night, next Friday night, we'll be back on here again with our King and Queen of the Ring prediction show. It's going to be a late night because I personally have to work until a little after 8 o'clock. And of course, you got SmackDown on from 8 to 10 next Friday. Some point after that, I know John, I believe, said he's busy till like 11 or 11:30 possibly next Friday.
Not anymore. We're not going.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll figure out a time. I haven't set a date. I haven't set a time yet for that show. So we probably could do right after SmackDown around 10:30, something like that. That'll be for the King and Queen of the Ring prediction show before King and Queen of the Ring, of course, takes place next week, Saturday, not this Saturday, the following Saturday, at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time.
What?
So that should be fun.
Yay.
Other than that, any last words from you guys before I close out this episode of the show? John's leaning in.
I deciphered it, so.
Thank you for doing it.
By the way, if Liv, Nikita, or Fallon sees this,
Oh,
jeez.
Okay, we have way too much fun with this shit.
We do at times.
Oh my God. Oh.
Well, that being said, we'll catch you guys next week, Thursday, for the second half of this King of the Ring retrospective. Have a good